Hey friends, today we are going to spend some time in the backyard flower beds because there is some maintenance that I need to do. Oftentimes, the late winter is the perfect time to do the majority of your pruning, so that is what I'm going to be focusing on today. I thought it would be really helpful to bring you along for the ride so I can show you exactly how to prune back your perennial grasses, your Echinacea, your Veronicas, all these great different plants that we have in our garden that need a little attention. I am going to also show you what I am not going to prune because that can be very important as well. We are back here in our backyard with our two great flower beds. These beds are less than 1 year old. This time last year, this was still completely grass. So this is not even a year old. We did a lot of work last year. I had the absolute most fun putting in shrubs and perennials. Cannot wait to see how it looks this year now that it will be in the ground for 1 full year. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you step by step for every single plant that we're going to prune. So I'm going to give you an example, a detailed like what you're going to do. Before we do that, I want to show you what I'm not going to prune because that's going to be it's going to be faster if I show you what we're not going to prune first. These are two kind of kidney-shaped bean flower beds here. This is the largest one for sure, and then back there in the farthest away from me is the smaller one. What we are not going to prune today is the forsythia. I have several of them in this flower bed. This is show off. Forsythia blooms on old growth and it is already starting to put out some little bud swells, so we do not want to touch that. Otherwise, I will be cutting off of this year's blooms. I will prune it immediately after it blooms. That way I can give it some shape. The magnolia, not going to do that one. It's fine. If I need to shape it up, I will wait that until we get to active growing season. But here in the back, it might be kind of hard to see because they are right now just sticks, but there are more forsythia here in the back and some blueberry bushes in here as well. We are not going to prune the ginkgo tree. It does not need to be pruned at all, nor are we going to prune my hairy louder walking stick. This is a really fun kind of contorted tree, slow grower, but gives lots of fun shape. We're leaving that one alone. And our butterfly bushes. Butterfly bushes do not get pruned. I'm going to wait until I start to see new growth pushing out of these guys, and then I will prune them. They look horrible right now. I am not going to sugarcoat it whatsoever. When we had the 7-degree night with the really cold wind, that was really dry wind, really kind of at a high level of blowing is the best I can describe it. It really did some damage on our plants. Butterfly bushes definitely took a hit. They are alive, they are fine, but I'm going to wait and prune them until they start pushing new growth, and then they will be good to go. And then over here in this smaller bed, I'm not going to prune my evergreen. It will stay. And then my Fairy Trail Bride hydrangeas. There are two right here. There are some in the other bed as well. Fairy Trail Bride is a trailing hydrangea, cascading hydrangea, blooms on old growth and new growth. It is starting to have a little bit of little swells on the stems, so we are going to leave those alone as well because they bloom on old and new growth. I do have some spireas in this bed. If we have time, we're going to grab those as well. And then of course my cherry tree is not going to get pruned. Everything else in this flower bed is going to get touched today. It will go pretty quickly, so don't be like, oh my gosh, this is going to take forever. I don't think it's going to take forever because it's really simple. So what I'm going to do is let me show you exactly what tools I have, because doing a job involves having the right tools, of course. And as a gardener, if you're going to do this and you enjoy it, it is an investment, right? So over the years, you kind of build up your toolbox that you use on a regular basis, because that's what we do. We use these tools. I use them every day. I know that my gardens, because of the nursery, could be on a different level, and I do more, right, because I'm out here every day filming videos and doing things. But these are so important to have because having the right tools does make the job go faster, easier, less frustrating. So what I am going to use today, I have in the back of Johnny right here. So we're just going to go through what we have. This green is a great pop-up container. It folds down nice and flat. It has handles on it so I can hang it on a wall in the garage. But this is just kind of my dump debris. So when I have stuff, I can throw it in there. When I'm done, I can go and easily dump it. It has a hard bottom on it, so you can slide it if you need to on the ground and it won't get caught. Love these. I've gone through several of these. Then I have, of course, my garden tool belt. You have seen me wear this on multiple videos. This is from Wheeler Monroe. They are a company actually here in North Carolina. Make these fantastic leather garden belts. You can get whatever design you want. I have them so mine holds my hory. It holds 2 sets of pruners, and then this pocket right here will hold anything else. I have my cell phone I'll put in there. I have a plant marker. You can have a little keychain if you want to put your keys on there. So love it. So check out Wheeler Monroe. You can go get one for you. And then I love this little hand rake from Kinsman Garden Company. If you need to get like underneath a shrub or a bush perennial, really kind of get in there, this pulls out those leaves really nicely. So in case I need that, I brought that. When I'm all said and done, I'm probably going to blow one area of the flower bed because it has underneath the maple tree. So I have my little earplugs for that. I have my great pair of gardening gloves. Love this. This is just a good pair of gardening gloves, right? Whatever you like. This is from Bellinghorn. This is Wonder Grip. I really like these. They're called Nearly Naked. So that way you can really get in there, and I wear a size medium. And then, talked about this a lot here lately, are my Rose Gauntlet gloves. Because we are going to prune that Julia Child standard. And so I brought these because we need to prune that rose. Very, very important. Helps save blood. We'll just say that. And then I have my little kneeling pad right here. Used this for a long time. A friend of mine gave it to me, but I have seen them in both Kinsman Garden Company and Gardener Supply. Really saves the knees, and too, like for me right now, the ground is kind of damp, so that keeps my knees dry. So what we're going to do first, I think we'll start with the rose standard. I'm going to show you how to prune your rose tree, and that way you get gorgeous blooms in the spring. All right, so love these Rose Gauntlet gloves. Again, Gardener Supply. They just make life so much easier when you're dealing with roses. All you need is a great pair of pruners. These are my Felcos. I'll use a size number 2. But basically, we are going to prune this rose tree in the same fashion as if it were a bush, a shrub, except that it is growing up into a tree form. You may be looking at this and you're like, Jenny, that is the ugliest, most misshapen rose tree I have ever seen in my life. I would completely agree. This is my daughter, my oldest daughter, Emily. She wanted to save this rose tree. So it was in bad shape, but as soon as we got it in the ground, it just flourished. So it's got a little bit of growth to do coming out this way. It's okay. It will flush out. We had gorgeous blooms on it last year. Pruning your roses is absolutely imperative. So we are going to come in and immediately take off any dead or damaged, diseased, or dying foliage. Any kind of stems like that. I see one right here that is old and brown, does not look good. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut it back to the main cane as much as I can. We are in North Carolina. We are a zone 7B, and I already have a bunch of my leaf buds are popping out. And this is like go time for me to go ahead and get this baby pruned. So that is what we are doing for sure. If you know your main stems, then that's what we really want to kind of keep with. Nice bright green, a little bit of pink to them. Those are going to stay. If you've got some limbs that are crossing each other and they're rubbing, like here we've got one that could potentially be crossing, so I'm going to take that out. your roses bloom on new growth. So we want to encourage as much new growth as possible. So that is why we prune. Just like ladies, when you get your hair cut, if you're trying to grow it out, right? We go and get some trims, get things cleaned up. That's what we are doing here. The only roses maybe that do not get pruned are your old-fashioned heirloom climbing roses. If in doubt, Google it. But if you have repeat blooming roses, then they are going to bloom on new growth. You need to get in here and prune them. Late winter, early spring is the best time, really, before it completely flushes out with new growth. So that will depend on where you are. Calendar-wise, it's going to vary from area to area. Where I am, January is a great time to do it. Hence, it's why we're here doing this right now. So we're just going to go ahead and get all this pruned back and then get her a nice open shape as much as we possibly can. Again, rose gloves are perfect for this because otherwise I would already be bleeding by now. So I'm going to keep on coming in here and getting got some dead stuff in here that needs to come off. Going to clean that up. You really want to bring it back when you're coming in here and pruning. You also want to make sure that you don't have any foliage left on your rose, whether it's a standard or if it's a climber or a landscape rose. No foliage left on there. Just go ahead and prune it back and everybody will be nice and happy and will flourish out. This is an absolutely stunning rose. It got its name, Julia Child. What was she famous for? Cooking, of course, and her use of butter. So this is a absolutely gorgeous, buttery, I say yellow, like a rich butter kind of color. Just really, really nice. I am going to come, not today, but I am going to come back through and add a stake to this because if we get wind, it comes right here and I just need to support this standard, especially when we get all this foliage on top. That'll just catch the wind and snap over. And that is what I do not want. I keep finding little pieces of dead in here. So just like that, she's pruned back. I always tell people it's better to start conservative and then prune more because you can always cut more off, but you can't put it back on. So go ahead and be a little conservative if you want to. If you're a little iffy on how to prune it, be conservative, and then you can go back and do more. So just like that, pretty simple. It is trimmed back. We are good to go. So now I just wait for warmer weather, starts to flush out, put some new little leaves on it, and then you can, if you have deal with Japanese beetles, you can go ahead and treat it then. I use the Bare 3-in-1 because it is a fertilizer, a fungicide, so black spot is good for black spot, and it is really good also for treating those Japanese beetles, preventing the Japanese beetles, and the sawtooth larva fly, which is fly larva, rather. It's a little tiny green worm that will defoliate your plant. So she is done, and now we are going to move on to the blueberries, give the blueberries a little trim, and then we're going to hit the rest of these perennials. Actually, you know what? I'm going to wait on the blueberries. This is what I was thinking about. I'm going to wait on the blueberries because I've never trimmed my blueberries before, and I need to do a little bit more research. So we're just going to scrap that. We're going to wait. I'll do research, and then I'll come back with you on the blueberries. So what we're going to do is go ahead and move on. She's my only rose in here. We're going to move on to how to trim your perennial grasses. Okay, so we're going to do perennial grasses in just 1 second, but I found this spot and it's perfect because I can hit 3 different kinds of plants and show you at the same time. I've got a daylily, I've got Veronica, and I've got grasses behind me. Daylilies, probably next to a hosta, literally the easiest plant ever to come in and clean up. If you wait till a freeze and some really cold temperatures, you just come in, pull the foliage up, throw it in your bucket, boom, you are done. Now, we are in the South, we are in North Carolina, and I do have some green already popping up in my daylilies. I have one over here that is a little bit taller. It got, last night was 26 degrees, it got fried. Don't worry about it. Daylilies are tough. Plants, if you have jonquils coming up or snowdrops or any kind of those things, they know what to do, so don't freak out. There's nothing for you to do other than clean up that foliage around there. So super, super easy on that. Next door here, I have my Veronicas. This was a new plant for me this year. I put it in a little bit late, and so I have not had a full year, like I haven't seen it bloom and all that fun stuff. This is where we're going to come in and blow in a little bit to get these maple leaves out. Veronicas, we're going to come in. I do have some green still in there, but I'm just going to come in and I'm cutting back. I'm cutting back all of the old foliage because a lot of this is burnt and brown. Yes, I snipped off some green. It is okay. They will bloom on that new growth. They will push out growth when we get warmer temperatures and be nice and happy and give me gorgeous flowers. So really you're just coming in and getting rid of all of your old spent yucky foliage. It's pretty, not to sound like sassy or anything, but it's pretty common sense on this as far as like what you want to keep and what you don't want to keep. The brown is going to go and the vast majority of your green is going to stay. So just, use a little common sense. But even because this is my first year really doing these Veronicas, I wasn't sure if I should prune them or not. I thought so because they are a perennial. So I just Googled it. When do you prune Veronicas? And I got my answer. So here we go. Beautiful, nice little tidy mound of green. Looks so much better. And this one is from Proven Winners. It is the Magic Show Ever After. Will be beautiful, nice, gorgeous, light blue, kind of tallish. Continuous bloomer on that. Brenna approves of it. And then I've got one more right beside of me I'll do in just a second. But let me show you now. She likes to steal the show. Let me show you how to prune these perennial grasses. These are Apache Roses. Super, super simple. Don't freak out, but it's really important that you do prune your perennial grasses. All right, so I have, let's see, there's 5 of these Apache Rose perennial grasses. Just gorgeous, fun texture and color to them in that growing season. And then they have great fall color as well. Really simple, y'all. You're going to get rid of all your leaves so that way you can really see what you've got here. And then you're going to take your grass and you're going to pull it up like a ponytail. Okay? Pull it up like a ponytail. If you have big grasses, then you could use like hedge trimmers. Heck, we've even used chainsaws before. Pull it up like a ponytail. Take your clippers and cut it down to the ground, because all of this is last year's growth. It is not going to come back. You're going to have growth that comes up from the base of the plant, just like that. We're just going to prune them all the way down. Now that one was a little bit small, so let me show you a bigger one. This is going to be a two-hander, I think. Can't do it all at one time. And you can go down on these guys as low as you need to. The idea of trimming back your perennial grasses now is that you want to do it before it starts to send out new growth. Because if you wait, and it's not the end of the world if you do it after it starts to send up new growth, but what's going to happen is you're cutting your green, and then the tips of your grass is going to be like a brown, like you're going to see where you cut it. By doing it now, before it shoots up new growth, then all your new foliage is going to be really, really pretty. It's going to look nice and clean and tidy. So just pull it up in a ponytail, give it a flat top, clean it up. If you see some, you can go back in. But yeah, you can use your clippers, you can use hedge pruners, You can use a chainsaw, like I said, if you've got big grasses and you're enlisting some help of maybe your husband or your son or your boyfriend, or you love using a chainsaw, go for it. So I've got 2 down, and then I've got 3 more to go. And then we're going to move on to super easy Echinacea. Really easy to prune. Makes a nice difference though in the garden this time of year. Here in front of me, I have got a section of Agastache, however you want to say it. This is meant to be Queen Nectarine. Brand new from Proven Winners. It's coming out this year. Walter's Gardens was kind enough to send me some samples. Love this plant. It is one of my absolute favorite new introductions. It's really simple, y'all. Cut it to the ground. All the old foliage that's burnt and dead and dying, cut it. Just snip it back. Boom. There you go. It's going to look like you basically have nothing. There is a little bit of green right here. I know that it is definitely alive. A little bit of green, trim it all the way back, and it will flush out as soon as warm temperatures come. So I had a total of 5 right here. So I'm going to do that and just trim them all the way back. And then behind me, I have some Achilla. This is the Firefly. Beautiful, bright yellow. It is going to be a little bit easier, maybe harder. Well, this is easy. I can't get any easier than this. Just cut it to the ground. So I'm going to do these 4, and then we're going to go do that Firefly. I did an up close shot so you can see this Achilla, and you can see where it is still green, right? Still has lots of beautiful green in there, and then it does have some old damage. That is what we are going to come in and take off. Now, if you get some of the green foliage, is it going to be the end of the world? No, not at all. And in fact, some of this old stuff is just pulling right off. So we just want to clean up the plant. These are where the flowers were, kind of like a daylily. It can kind of just snap in here, but we just want to get it cleaned up, tidied up. If you wanted to, I don't know if you could just pull this back, like cut it all the way back, but it seems that we can just get in here and tidy up the plant, pull out any old dead, and that really does makes a nice little difference now, doesn't it? Look at that. And it's nice to have a little bit of green in the garden here in the middle of January. So just clean it up. And this is an old limb that's sticking out that we want to go ahead and cut off. I didn't think that was a baby plant. So we're just going to cut it off just like that. That was what was coming out. And so clean it up, and then there you go. And then next door, we also have some Echinacea and a grass that we're going to take care of. I'm sitting in the middle of 3 of white muley grasses. Beautiful late summer, fall bloomer. These beautiful plumes on it. Nice, creamy white. Great addition in your garden. You may be familiar with the pink muley grass. This is just white. A little bit different than our other perennial grasses like the Cheyenne Sky that we did. I am not going to clear cut it, flat top it as much as I did my other ones. And in fact, depending on where you read, some people say just, rake your hands through it and clean it up. I want to clean it up a little bit more than that. So I am still going to pull it up into the ponytail fashion, but I am not going to cut as much off. I'm only going to cut the plant back by, what is that? Well, half. So you can see that I still have a nice little section of grass still up and available. It is not so down to the ground like my other grass. Get in here and just clean it up just a little bit. It really just does better if you don't cut it all the way down to the ground and just clean it up just like that. So this way it will, when it flushes out, you won't have, all your old plumes spilling everywhere through your garden. That can be a downside sometimes of leaving your grasses through the winter, is that they can tend to be messy. If you want to prune your grasses earlier in the fall, you can do that. It is not going to hurt it to go ahead and prune it a little bit earlier in the season. It will do just fine. So if it looks too messy to you and you want to prune it in the fall, go ahead and prune it in the fall. Not a big deal at all. So we have one more of these guys. I do have 3 more of these in the other flower bed, so I will do those just like I'm doing these guys. And then after we get these grasses taken care of, then we're going to move on to Echinacea. Echinacea, oh, fantastic. Love it. If you're looking for a pop of late summer color when it is incredibly hot in your garden, that is what you need. Echinacea. Fantastic perennial that your pollinators love, your birds love in the winter and the fall. Love, love, love this plant. It is right behind me. So I'm going to get the rest of these yarrow cleaned up, and then we'll go to the Echinacea. I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different types of Echinacea in these 2 flower beds. I planted them last year. I think it was like July. It was hotter than blue blazes. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go for it, and we're just going to do it. Well, Echinaceas are hot weather plants, and they transitioned so nicely. Typically, on some of our Echinacea, we can still have some green here in North Carolina, even like this time of year. But with that really cold Arctic blast that came through, it really just did mine in. Any kind of green, it really took away. So at this point, you can remove all that foliage. The old burnt foliage at the bottom will really just kind of pull away. And then your old flower heads, just cut them down to the ground and get rid of them. I typically, I like to leave my Echinacea till, you know, this point in the year, because especially the finches will like to come and eat on those old bloom heads and just provide a nice, you know, food source for your birds. I'm at the point now, got my bird feeders up. I keep them up all year, but my bird feeders are up. They can eat off of that. I'm ready to get my garden cleaned up, and so I'm going to cut these down to the ground. I can see some green deep down inside the Echinacea, so I know that they are alive. But again, super simple, y'all. Just cut them down to the ground, clean up all that old foliage. Once we start to get consistent warm temperatures, poof, they're going to absolutely explode. But Echinacea, when you plant it, you definitely want to plant it in the warmer time of the year. Like, this would not be the time of year that you want to plant your hot weather loving perennials, because their roots are not going to be growing. You want to plant a hydrangea? Great time. You can do it. Not a problem. Your Echinacea? Nope. Wait until it is warm, or you're going into that warm season. That really tends to be the best advice that I can give you. We had problems as a grower. We were trying to bring in Echinacea like in the late fall, plant it, and then overwinter and have it in the spring. And we were just having massive difficulties. Our friend Kata at Walter's Gardens said, let's bring it in at a different time of year. Had great, massive success. We brought it in late spring, I believe it was, and it did great. So knowing that it is a hot weather plant makes a real big difference on when you want to plant it. But gorgeous colors. This is the Sombrero Granada Gold. We love, love the Sombrero series. It is a wonderful series. Nice big flowers on it, really bold. Proven Winners has some really fun new ones. I have got Once in a Melon over there. Gorgeous, huge blooms on it. Perfect cantaloupe color. Then Back to the Fuchsia. Lots of really fun ones that are coming out this year. And I'm going to be planting some in the berm come this spring. But Echinacea, cut them down to the ground. And I think with that, this flower bed is done. The flower bed next to me, the small flower bed, are the same plants in there. I still have my Cheyenne Sky. I've got my Echinacea, and let's see. Oh, I do have Oregano, the Drops of Jupiter, and Pearl Glam and Spireas. So let's go do those. Let's do the Drops of Jupiter, Spirea, and Pearl Glam Beautyberry. So here we are on the back side of the smaller bed. I've got 3 Drops of Jupiter Oreganos right here, and then I'm sitting beside a Pearl Glam Beautyberry. The oregano is really simple, y'all. It is very much the same as the veronicas and some of those other perennials. I've got green foliage down in the center, but I've got a lot of old foliage that is dead. If you can snap it back, snap it back. I was finding it wasn't snapping very easy, so I just come in with my clippers and I just prune it back. So if it's brown, it's going, green can stay. This is, you know, similar to the culinary oregano. I mean, it's in the same family. Technically, you could eat it. It is certainly not meant to be eaten. It is an ornamental, beautiful, bright chartreuse green foliage on it. And then, of course, beautiful flowers. As I have it here, this is, depends on how you want to look at it, but from this perspective, it is in the front of the flower bed. So, because it is going to be a very low grower. So there you go, just cleaning it up a little bit. So that's what you're going to do with your oreganos. Clean them up, keep the green foliage, cut off all the foliage that is dead and was last year's. Pearl Glam Beauty Berries, fantastic shrub, roughly in that 4 to 5 foot tall. It blooms on new growth. So this is a really good time to come in and prune it. You're going to want to go ahead and test it though to see if it's a dead limb, you want it out. We had a little bit of irrigation issues this late summer, and so they suffered a little bit. So what you can do is just come in and like bend the limb. If it snaps, it's dead. Go ahead and take that out. If it's nice and green and very flexible, it is alive. I'm going to do it a little bit like a panicle hydrangea, in the fact of I'm going to just come in and kind of, I'm not clearly being precise at all, and I'm going to cut it back. That way it will encourage new growth. If you want to be precise, be precise. Jenny's not in a really precise mood today. We're just going to go for it and clean it up. Really hard, y'all. Just go in there, snip it, alive, leave it, dead, take it, boom, there you go. So I've got 3 of these beauty berries. I'll do that. So do my 2 more of my beauty berries, 2 my oreganos, and then we're going to move to spireas. And then that is all the new things. So we'll just go back through and I'll do my Muley Grass, my Echinacea, and my Cheyenne Skies. And then we can be done with today's projects. Now I have just right here in front of the Pearl Glams and the oregano, I've got 3 of the double play Doozy Spirea. Gorgeous, fantastic shrub. I don't know, can y'all get that? Is that in the background? Brenna, yeah, the bucket's in the way. Brenna is back there living her best life being outside. She is, oh, lousy bee. Anyway, I digress. I apologize. Double play Doozy Spirea. Wonderful spirea, does beautiful kind of a raspberry pink flower on it is the best way I can describe it. It does bloom on new growth, hence is why I am pruning it. This would be one that would be a good candidate for using just trimmers because it has lots of little tiny little stems on it. There's not like, you know, just a couple of big main trunks. It's just a bunch of little small ones. You can, with the Doozy, it is the first non-invasive spirea. So if you've had issues with spireas in the past where they were, you know, putting out too many seeds and you had little spireas all over your yard, you might want to try Doozy. It has been an absolute rock star for us, both as a grower and like a professional grower and as a home gardener. Repeat bloomer, lots of gorgeous, you know, foliage, flowers, pollinators love it. Clearly, I am just going in here and giving it a haircut. Nothing super specific, clearly. I am not babying this plant whatsoever. But because it blooms on new growth, you want to just shape it up this time of year into the spring. If you start to see, you know, your little swells of where your leaf buds are, then that's definitely a sign that you need to go ahead and give it a shape. But super simple, trim it, give it a little love. With all these other ones, like I've said before, when you're pruning and they bloom on new growth, you're encouraging new growth, which means you're going to have more blooms. So this is a good one. Here we go. Getting in there. There we go. So any little stems that are just kind of wild and woolly that you want to trim back, that's what you're going for. A nice, beautiful shape, taking some length off. I would say I only prune that back by maybe like a fourth, not very much at all. So when the new growth, warm temperatures, flushes out, get nice and tight, it won't be splayed open and spindly, it'll be nice and tight, gorgeous color. So one down, two to go, clean up the rest of the bed, and then today's project will be complete. All right, my friends, so today's project is complete. Both of the backyard beds have been neat and tidied up. I love it. I love a nice, tidy garden. I know that it is bare and there is, quote, not much going on right now compared to what it looked like in the summertime, but it's nice and neat and tidy and clean, and that just makes me very, very happy. Muley grasses cut back, echinaceas that were down here, nice and trimmed up. I had echinaceas in front of the sundial. Those are done as well, as more grasses. This was the Apache Rose. Then there was a whole section of echinacea back there. And then this bed, just you glance over it and it just looks nice and tidy. Mid-January in North Carolina, we have got things that are really like popping up and popping out. A lot of my dormant shrubs, my trees, they are already starting to have their where their leaves are going to be, they're really starting to swell. And so that just means, hey, if you're going to prune me, now is a great time to do it. If you're in doubt of when to prune, whether it's your perennial or a tree or a shrub, just reach out to a local garden center, ask a gardening friend, Google it. When you're Googling it, make sure that you're looking at a reputable source. Each state has a university that is an agricultural-based university. For us, it's NC State. For South Carolina, it is Clemson, University of Georgia, right? So there are some really great universities out there that have good information on plants and how to take care of them. So really research that. For example, the blueberries. At the beginning, I was like, oh, you don't prune blueberries right now. And as the words were coming out of my mouth, I was like, that is not true. We prune blueberries right now. I will prune them, and I need to do that because they're beginning to swell. But I want to do some research just to make sure that I do it correctly because I want to have some blueberries. But everything just looks nice and neat. I did go ahead and get the blower out. The only thing that was really in here were the leaves from my maple tree, and they were really kind of piling up, obviously, underneath the tree, and the veronicas and the grasses, and all of those now are nice and neat and tidy. Those of you that are wondering, maybe you're new, my pots in the ground, that is where my mangaves go. So I have what we call a pot in a pot, where I have really nice large mangaves that are in a 3-gallon pot. They can't handle our winters. They would get melted, and so I take them, the pot is in the ground, the mangave is in a separate pot, and then those two pots slide together. So they have been removed and are over at the nursery hanging out. But yeah, everything looks great, nice, neat, tidy. Get out there, do something. I personally find it easier to go section by section. Totally depends on you. Like if you wanted to go through and one day do all your perennial grasses, and then the next day go back in and do all your echinacea, and then go do all your panicle hydrangeas, and then all your roses, right? If you wanted to do it that way, totally do it that way. For me, in my brain, it makes the most sense that I can go, this area is done. I don't have to worry about this whole area because it is done. Then I can move on to the area maybe behind me and get that done. So Whatever method it is that you use, just go for it. If you're able to get out there, weather permits, and you can get outside, do it. I know probably like half the country is like me, and it's pretty mild right now, and we're gearing up for spring, and the other half of you are still buried in snow. You can do the exact same things that we are doing now. It's just going to be pushed back on your calendar, I don't know, what, 4, 6, 8 weeks maybe? So whenever the time is right, get out there, have some fun, enjoy being in your garden. As always, thanks so much for growing with Creekside. Y'all have a great day. We'll see you in the next video. Bye, friends.